podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Bermondsey. Accept no substitute.
Hello dear listeners, welcome to Achtung Millwall, part 3 of our coverage of that magnificent 1-0 home win over Leeds on Wednesday night. My name is Nick Hart and this is yet more voicemails. We've had an absolute torrent of voice notes sent in to me. Big thank you to everyone who's contributed to this show, part 3. The one I did yesterday with Merv, part 2. I really appreciate your comments. It really is an enjoyable part of the podcast now, and I look forward to everyone's thoughts and comments. We're reacting obviously to Wednesday night's terrific win. Probably one of the best performances against one of the best sides we've seen in a long while at the Den. Compare it with the victory we achieved over Leicester City towards the back end of last season. That was in obviously much more desperate circumstances. But this win on 1-0 on Wednesday night has taken us into 5th. I think we're sitting 6th after last night's result versus 0-0 draw between Burnley and West Bromwich Albion. But clearly it's a season transformed with a run of 4 wins on the trot now. So let's have a quick listen to the remainder of the voice notes, the ones I haven't included in the conversation with Merv yesterday. We're going to begin with the unique sound of Bobby T and then follow that with Adam Wicks. So take it away, Bobby T.
Good morning, Nick. Bobby T here. The night after the storm of the stadium lights, all that nonsense and all that Farkle and all that Farkle and all that marching on together. They marched off home. That's where they went. Every player stood up and fighted for the badge and the shirt. Millwall performance. I just want to quickly say that my thoughts on the game. Harry's got it spot on with the subs, Coburn. I mean, the guy has got Millwall blue blood yet. And past conversations and past podcasts, I've said Harris out. You know, then he's mixed it all up. But to give him credit, he's got a lion's heart. And wherever we end up this season, mid-table, 5th, playoff, Premier League bound, I'm not going to get carried away. But that guy is Millwall. And yes, in past I've said to him, oh, get out. We've got to move on with Harris, Adam Barrett, all this rubbish. But it just shows you when we win, when we lose or draw, we are Millwall. So anyway, last night was amazing. Every player stood up, but seriously, Savile, everyone played a part. Feel a bit sorry for Mahilo. Didn't get a chance, but Harris knew that. Maybe Saturday he starts. Maybe he's not Harris's man. Like he's been frozen out. Coburn's magic. Anyway, Nick Hart, sorry for my language last night and all out of the Yorkshire, but they deserve it. Bye for now. See you on Saturday for the Stoke preview. Bye for now, Bobby T.
Morning, Nick. It's just Adam Wicks here, just leaving my thoughts after last night's fantastic 1-0 win at home to Leeds. Blimey, nearly time to build a statue for Harris, I think. I mean, I don't think there's any sort of limit to the sort of superlatives you can throw at this team from a sort of grit, determination, organisation, bloody-mindedness perspective. They have pleasantly surprised me all season with the way they've approached winnable games. And now, I mean, with the sort of Leeds and Burnley result, the way they've stuck together, dug in, brought the crowd into things, fought so hard for each other and just, I mean, run through brick walls for each other is it's such a pleasure. It's such a pleasure to watch. I mean, I've seen a few tweets and stuff from Leeds fans saying about I don't know how we can watch football like that every week, but you know, just goes to show that after all these years, they've still got no understanding of us at all. And I would quite happily put up with that if it meant, you know, knocking them down a peg or two every now and then. I think we just cut our cloth accordingly, like depending on the opponent we're playing, and I just can't fault. I can't fault anybody. I think they've all been amazing. It's brilliant. You know, Aziz is growing into things and has contributed. I thought Wintle was very good yesterday. Very, very good. Coburn, when he come off the bench, really helped out. Danny McNamara, you know, comes in and out when needed, puts an absolute shift in, leaves everything out there. Tanganga looks like he's got still another 3 or 4 gears to go through it, and he's playing within himself. I mean, but still looks like one of the best defenders we've had for, well, I don't know, in my lifetime probably. Brings the best out of Cooper. Leonard's solid as ever. Jensen's catching everything now. Yeah, I actually see him dishing it out to some of the players yesterday, which I thought was great. I don't know. I'm very, 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 very happy with the way things are going. And yeah, long may it continue. I think, you know, we just, don't know. We're in nosebleed territory now, aren't we? So I think we just get to that 50-point mark and then, I don't know, kick on from there, see where we go. We've certainly not come across anything to be scared of so far this season, and we're a quarter of the way through. Fantastic stuff. Anyway, not going to Stoke on Saturday, but hopefully we get another result up there and keep the clean sheets rolling. Unbelievably defensively. Come on, you Lions.
That's terrific stuff by Bobby first, and then Adam. I mean, both of you boys. I mean, I think a common theme across all the messages we've had. Go on social media, listeners. You know, I don't know if you'd agree with me out there. You're listening to the show. This is a Millwall team that's in Neil Harris's image, in the sense of it's full of players, as Adam's just said there, that will run through brick walls and will fight for every 50-50 challenge. Will kind of blood, sweat and tears approach, isn't it? You know, it's we've abandoned the pretty football. Neil Harris himself said in one of his post-match comments, it might have been to Millwall TV, that we were playing pretty football, as he called it, and it was some brilliant football. I mean, I've said a few times on this show how much I've enjoyed watching us when we've got flowing in you know, in certain fixtures. But if we're going to try and play that kind of style against teams like Burnley last week and then Leeds midweek, very expensive sides assembled with resources that we just can't match. There's only, you don't, you know, if you give the game to your opponent that they want, which I think is what a lot of these critics online are kind of subconsciously almost calling for. Play the pretty football. Try and match those two wingers for Leeds. I thought both were excellent players. Nonto, I think, I can't remember. There's an Italian guy on the other side. Try and, you know, if we give them the game they want, then we're going to get murdered. And football, whether you like it or not, is all about the bottom line. You know, there's 1,000,001 statistics in the modern game, listeners, which, you know, I make a bit of a show on this podcast of being dismissive of, because there is only one statistic that matters, and that's the full-time score. And despite the percentage count, which was 75-25 in Leeds' favour on Tuesday, I think it was 65-35 in Burnley's favour on Sunday, we've come away with a point, 6 points from two very strong sides assembled at great expense. You know, you can fill in this yourself, dear listeners. What's the most effective type of football? Is it pretty? No. No, but I actually enjoyed watching it. It's very tense. You know, I must admit, I was on the edge of my seat up there in Birdshit Corner, dear listeners. I don't know about if you were on the edge of your seat. I thought that we were sustaining, you know, extended periods of pressure by Leeds, passing. There was always and to some extent with Burnley on the Sunday, you know, that can we sustain it? Can we endure this? The answer is that by hook or by crook, touch of fortune here and there. I think we, you know, we might have dodged a bullet with that offside goal, and there were moments where they looked very dangerous coming down our flanks. But thanks to some brilliant defensive work across the team, Tanganga got the man of the match. But I generally believe you could have picked any one of the half a dozen players, if not the whole 11, as a potential man of the match on Wednesday night. So yeah, fantastic stuff. Bobby, you made the point about Neil Harris equals Millwall. It very much, this angers some people, listeners. Online, you read a lot of anti Neil Harris comment, critiquing the football that he's playing and the aspiration of what that football means. Um, I, I personally am of the opinion that I can't think of a better Millwall manager unless you go to the great, which was John Docherty, who achieved promotion to the top flight. You know, arguably the likes of Kenny Jackett and Mark McGee, promotion winning managers in the past. But really, for someone to come in and actually manage a club like Millwall, which is not an easy thing to do. I mean, I think we've had this debate a few times about outsiders coming in and not understanding the club. I mean, Gary Rowett is probably the classic example because he's a good manager. He achieves, and he didn't do badly with us, but he doesn't excite the blood. He doesn't get your blood pumping in a way, for whatever reason, whatever emotional thing lies behind it, that Neil Harris can. I take my hat off to his achievements at the moment, and you know, we a few names been checked already. I'm sure some of the other comment messages on this show will name check the same kind, Tanganga and Wintle and Coburn, Femi Aziz, and the amount of effort that's been put in collectively. Danny Mack, I thought, did very well the other night. But this is a Mill team. I feel personally the great secret to any Mill side is, can you, the fan, sitting on your arse in the stands, can you identify with this team? Do you feel connected to them? And the answer for me right now, which is massive achievement, is yes, I do. I do feel connected. This is my team. This is your team. And you know, the form might peter out soon. You know, we've been running on empty. I thought at times in both games, but certainly against Leeds, I thought that some of the players looked, utterly exhausted, as I would be if I tried to put in that kind of athletic performance. But so the form may peter out, but these are players that you can identify with, and long may it continue. So brilliant stuff there, Bobby T and Adam Wicks. Next up, we're going to have a quick listen now to Matt Richards. Take it away, Matt.
Hello, Nick. Matt Richards. Fucking hell. What a night. What a result. What performance. It's just can't still kind of sinking in really. Turned up there tonight, and after the recent games, it was such a good run, and you kind of thinking, playing against a team as good as Leeds, who they're a step above Burnley. And the way we played against Burnley just a few days ago, we just thought, well, would we have the legs for it? Would we? Because the amount of running and chasing you need to do when they've got possession is incredible. And we did it. We were so compact, we were so tight, and kept our shape and the fight, and just absolutely superb, really. Can't praise the players and Neil Harris enough. It's I remember thinking about these games, a while back, and looking ahead at these games, thinking, "Oh Christ, we need to get some points on the board before we get to these games." We've gone and bloody won them. Yeah, brilliant. And it's great. I suppose looking forward, it's great because that gives the team confidence. Another clean sheet. Yeah, okay. So it was a backs to the wall performance tonight. We always knew it was going to be. We still played it. I thought there was occasions we played some decent football as well, and we had maybe not clear cut chances, but we had breaks where perhaps another ball or pass we would have got in again. It was never going to be that sort of game. We're never going to outplay Leeds, but we can outfight them, and that's what we did. That's what we did tonight. Team wise, you go through the team. I mean, Ryan Leonard was just superb against, that Nonto. You think about their front players, Nonto, Piero, James. They're Premier League really standard. but our defence stood up against them. Tanganga was superb. Cooper was brilliant. The headers he was winning from free kicks. The variation really made a difference, and obviously that's where we got the goal from as well. Thoroughly deserved goal, and midfield battled, and obviously giving Casper a little bit of a break and just bringing him on for the last 30 minutes. Sensible approach really, because I say you're doing loads of running, and we've still got a game on Saturday, so. Well played to all of them. SA did well. I thought Watmore was really good tonight. Probably a bit better than he was on Sunday. Langstaff battled. I thought Coburn was brilliant for like the half an hour, 20 minutes he was on. He was like my man of the second half really. It just shows you once he's up fully fit, what a danger he'll be. He was battling, shows good control. So what a night! What a night! It started off with a light show and just got better from then on, didn't it? Really, maybe we need to have a light show. Maybe that's a different. Well, it's not a difference, is it? Because we've been doing well before the light show, so let's not worry about that. But great night. Come on, you Lions!
The light show, Matt. I managed to get through 15 minutes of this show without mentioning the light show. We'll come back to that later, perhaps. I do want to concentrate on the magnificent effort put in by the whole squad on Wednesday night and before that against Burnley, because these are two of the best sides that we'll face. We've got a Sunderland in a couple of weeks' time, I believe, so that's going to be another test. But at the moment, the way this team is playing, I don't think we need fear anybody. Yeah, I mean, the running, the pressing, the tackling, the grit and determination, the willingness to stand our ground. These are magnificent Millwall traits. This is why we follow the Lions, dear listeners. There's many reasons why people follow their clubs, emotional and all. I follow Millwall. One, I don't know what else I'd do with myself, to be absolutely honest now, but it is that sense that against all odds, in the tightest of corners, we'll fight, scratch, kick and bollock our way through to beating superior value sides, superior skilled sides, and prevail against the desires and wishes of the great and the good. That's why I don't know why I'd have to get on the psychiatrist's couch to explain why that appeals to me. It just does. I think it's one of those things that appeals to us all as Millwall fans. You mentioned Jake Cooper there, Matt. Good shout. I think that Jake has been, much maligned in some ways, but I think really this season he's come on well. He plays at his best with good players around him, and in Jeff at Tanganga, he's got one of the best defenders I've possibly ever seen at the Den. I don't know if that's overplaying it. I can't think of many who would be better than Jeff Tanganga. I mean, you might be going to the Steve Woods and the McClearys in their pomp back in the 80s, but certainly as at this point in all these years since those days, a long while ago now, I'm struggling to think of many better. I don't think there's some good players, and put him in the same sentence perhaps as the Darren Walls, the Shaggies, and all the rest of it in their day, in the height of their powers. But that's the level that we've got with him. I believe he could well be a Premier League player. We may struggle to keep him come the end of the season, but that's going to be something that, again, that you look to the club to get maximum value for if that point comes. Same with Romain Esse, I'm almost certain of it. I want to give a shout out to Macaulay Langstaff up front, because obviously he's been signed as a goal scoring sensation in lower league football. I imagine, don't know enough about Notts County's style, who was last with, but I would imagine that he's operating off of a big man, the classic Sheringham Cascarino kind of approach, where he's got a big man to do the hard work, and then he's picking up the droppings from the plate from the table, so to speak, to score the goals that he did. And he's been required to play a very, very different style with us now, and he's doing it very well, in my opinion. It's an alien game for him. I'm sure he's been used to being the star of the team, the goal scorer, the glamour boy, and he's having to do hard yards up front, hard running. I mean, the whole team ethic is built on pressing, and he's putting it in. So I just want to mention Macaulay Langstaff. He's not getting the goals. He won't get the chances, and he's having to operate as a lone ranger up front. But take your hat off to him, because in a a lot of mention of some great players, defensive performance on Wednesday night, but he starts from him up front. So big shout out to Macaulay Langstaff. We're going to take a very short advertising break, dear listeners, and we're going to come back after the messages with Matt Webb.
Achtung, Millwall.
Nick, Matt Webb here, calling in from last night's really good win against Leeds United. I felt like last night's result and performance to a degree was going to be a little bit more challenging than it was against Burnley. I do think Leeds are a better team than Burnley, and we were going to have to absorb more possession and attacking threat from Leeds United. But when it has an atmosphere like last night, the crowd were great. That feeds into the manager. That obviously feeds it into the players. You could just tell that everyone in that club, in that ground, except for the North Stand, were probably up for it. Albeit light show or no light show, which I'll go into more detail later. But in terms of the game, I thought it was going to be a lot of absorb the pressure and then hit them on a counter or a set play, and it actually worked out like that. And how the game panned out was really, really good. I felt that the goal that Tanganga scored was absolutely sublime. That is a Premier League player finish. When you're not an attacker, he is such a colossus at the back. And I noticed in the first half he was chasing that Willie Nonto around all in that first half, and so much so that Nonto had to drop deep and to pick up the ball to apply pressure. But I was just so pleased for the lads last night. I did say after Sunday's result that the big test was to sort of recreate what they did on Sunday in terms of determination, grit, and desire, and they did it. So 6 points out of two teams that are in the top four is something that we should really be proud of. They gave the man of match to Tanganga. I can't deny that. I can't sort of argue that. However, I would have given it to Danny McNamara, and I just want to make an absolute special mention to that fella. He bleeds blue and white, and you know what he'll do. If you said to him, "Go and goal for us," he would go and goal. That's what the type of character Danny Mac is, and I thought he done an absolute great job on Dan James last night. All right, Dan James beat him for pace on a few occasions. However, what Danny did in terms of his presence was forced him to go wide, forced him to put crosses in, which he couldn't do it, intercept the crosses, and also he was inviting Dan James to shoot from distance, in which he did on a couple of occasions, and it went straight down the keeper's throat. So you've got to take your hat off to Danny McNamara, and he was actually my man of the match last night, which was tough because there was loads of players that were in contention. Again, with the SA debate, not the best of games, but not the worst, and but he was the one who got the free kick for the goal, so he put a shift in, and again, it's not going to happen every day. He's just a lad, and we'll give him a little bit of time. But I was really pleased with his performance, and like I said, everyone's performance. I'm just keeping this one brief today. Moving forward, we got a Stoke game at 12:15 on Saturday. I would definitely probably ring some chat. I would now see whether Coburn would be ready to start. I'd have him start. I would have Aziz back in. And it's going to be a Stoke team that won last night as well, so they're going to have a bit of confidence. Going to their gaff is not always going to be easy. Bloody cold up there, that's for certain. But Mill should go into that game with full of confidence, knowing that we could get a result there. And I think that's what we need to do now, is really turn our away stats into more wins now. So we need to start on Saturday against Stoke. and then we go from there. In terms of the light show, look, it's not everyone's cup of tea, and I get that. And was the booze needed at the beginning? Well, people want to voice their opinion. That's their up to them. It's their prerogative. For me, it don't bother me. We ain't the first team to do this. We certainly won't be the last team to do this. But what I did enjoy was seeing a picture that came through onto our WhatsApp group. The fact that Millwall made Leeds feel really welcome in the away end by having Emmerdale on the TV, which for me I thought that was a very good tongue-in-cheek joke from the club, to make sure that Leeds get their Emmerdale fix, because they're obviously missing it on that night. So yeah, great result. Nice to see you again, mate. And yeah, the atmosphere was fantastic. So roll on Saturday. It's on the red button, so we'll all sit in our warmth, and good luck to those who are going up there. And then another big test after that, which is Sunderland. So they come in thick and fast, but there's no stopping us at the moment. And long may it continue. Come on, you Lions.
Cheers, Matt. Yeah, the light show, we've touched on it already. From what I read, and I've got no insight into this whatsoever, listeners, I go by the same kinds of reports and comments and stuff that you see on the internet that everyone else does. I actually don't have any inside track on this thing at all. We've had to upgrade our floodlighting. Apparently, they have the EFL has probably Premier League inspired lux requirements, light power requirements, and the old floodlights from the which would be the originals from 1993 don't conform to that. I always thought our floodlighting system was pretty good, but then I do compare it with the ones we had at Coldblow Lane, which were akin to some of these power saving light bulbs you have on your staircase, where it's barely illuminates the area at all. So anything compared with that always seems like brilliance to me, brilliant white. But anyway, we've had to upgrade our floodlights. The company that has done it, this Max and Mays, Belgian-based company, apparently. I read all this. I have no inside track, but apparently they give a discounted price if you'll run 3 of their light shows. I guess that's an advertising pitch for them. They can show that to prospective clients and get more business, because they can give examples as to the kind of light show you can get. And look at this club here, Millwall's doing it, everyone's doing it. That kind, you don't need me to tell you how they pitch their sales, sales techniques. What did I think of it? I could not give a shit, listeners, about a light show. I'm too old and too long in the tooth to start imagining myself on the dance floor at Studio 54 with Right Here, Right Now playing. Strutting my stuff. I've got to watch my ticker, listeners. The booing I found quite funny, really. I took a little video, which I'm sure everyone listening to the show has probably seen because it's on Twitter. It's had a stupid amount of views. It's had nearly 700,000 views, this little clip. I did like a sardonic bit of commentary over the top of it, which people predominantly have enjoyed and liked, and then you get a few snarky comments from the usual suspects trying to have a dig back. Incredible. There's been a strange transformation, dear listeners. I think it'll last up until we next blot our copybooks with the FA in some offensive way. But we've kind of become nominated as bastions of working class football, all in capital letters. We've gone from being the most hated club in the country to now romantic, soft, dewy-eyed, sepia-toned. Wasn't it better when the last remnants of the old days kind of thing? I don't know how that's happened actually, because I don't think we're any different to how we've always been. But anyway, the light show, yeah. I mean, I think we've probably got a few more to endure before the deal is up. So. Get used to it, dear listeners. Big thank you there to Matt Webb. That's the light show covered. Next up, let's have a listen to Lawrence Binney. Take it away, Lawrence.
All right, Nick, this is Lawrence Binney calling in after Mill 1, Leeds United 0. I'm sort of lost for words, to be honest. I was so sure after Sunday that we'd used up our good performance card. my dad couldn't make it, and so I felt a bit gutted. My dad couldn't make it to the Burnley game, rather, so I felt a bit gutted that I was dragging him to the Leeds game when we did inevitably lose, and just like knackered after. It's the middle of the week, you're feeling the fatigue. Like, who fucking wants to go and see us get turned over by Leeds? Watch those like horrible Northern monkeys gloating and singing all the way back to Surrey Quays and South Bermondsey. But fuck me, like, we pulled that out of the hat, didn't we? Like, that was a proper performance. It actually sort of reminded me a little bit of that playoff semi-final performance against them back in about 2009, where Jimmy Abdou had a stormer and Zach Whitbread was stopping everything. Kind of wave after wave of Leeds attack, but not really creating anything. Just to kind of maybe go through this a bit chronologically, I actually, for the second time in the space of a week, kind of found myself questioning Neil's lineup and tactics, and then getting egg on my face. I felt like after an opening 5-minute period where we barely touched the ball, we actually kind of pressed them back for a good 15 minutes, probably until like a 20-minute mark, where it really felt like we were getting to grips with the game and taking it to them. And then, I don't know, it felt at the time, at least, that we were paying a bit too much respect. They were getting half chances. They were getting a bit of joy down our right-hand side with Nonto, who's a very good player. And it was just a bit like, like we might have to hold out for a 0-0 here, get it to half-time. But it also had a cup tie feel. And I compared it to the Leeds playoff semi-final. It also reminded me of that run we went on in League One under Harris, where we beat all those Premier League teams like Bournemouth, Watford, Leicester. It was a real game of moments, and our moments sort of came out of nowhere, really. A set piece goal, which I don't feel like we've been as effective with this season. Great knockdown, didn't see who it was. And then Tanganga with a striker's finish, a cool finish and a cool celebration to match. And then it was just like the Alamo pretty much for the rest of the game. I think we had one chance towards the end, which sort of kind of bobbled out of nowhere and hit the post. But like I said, they had wave after wave of attack, but they just came up against. If it wasn't sort of like Leonard or Danny Mack, who I thought was outstanding today, or yesterday rather, kind of like marshalling them out for a goal kick or a throw in or a corner. When they tried to cut inside, they just couldn't find a way through the middle at all. So even though like they looked like they were going to score every time they went forward, as soon as they got to that final third, it all just fell apart for them. And you could see the frustration build, and they lost their heads actually in the last 15 minutes. Where they kept making silly mistakes, and there was just this growing belief in the crowd that we were going to see it through. Fantastic. I mean, what a fucking performance that was. I can't believe we've been treated to 2 in the trot. Neil's a fucking legend. I will have one moan. I don't want it to all be positive. Thankfully, it's not about the playing staff or the coaching staff. At half time, our biggest game of the season. It's getting towards winter now, so there's a need for warm clothes, right? At half time, when you go out into the open area where all the food stands are and the beer bus, why the fuck is the merchandise shop closed? Like, there were so many tourists there today as well who probably wanted to pick something up. Like, I mean, those kids behind the counters, right, are getting paid minimum wage, if that. Just stick a couple of them behind the desk at the club shop kiosk. You know what I mean? Like, why? Like we're bringing at least a few hundred quid, which is more than pay for their wages. And the club a pretty penny. It's just like, it just baffles me. Just like I see it every fucking week. That kiosk is shut at half time. I had no idea. I'll fucking buy a hat. I wasn't even that cold. But yeah, a little rant over. It's good times, man. It's good times. We've got Sunderland coming up, Stoke away. Ugh, 2 games that I don't really expect us to get much out of. But, I said that about Leeds, and here we are. Up to 5th. Fucking hell, nosebleed territory. All right, cheers, Nick. Thanks for your hard work on the pod. Keep it going, mate. Come on, you Lions.
Cheers, Lawrence. Kind words, mate. Appreciated. The merch stand, I don't know. I mean, I don't really go down that side. Why you would close your merchandise stand down, I don't know. It goes beyond me. I mean, the club are doing so much right at the moment. I was talking to Jimmy Webb, Matt's brother, before the game, and he was telling me that he was in the Spitfire bar, the new old club shop that's been converted into a a drinks bar. He says really nice in there. He's talking to Jimmy Barrelston. Great, that is tremendous. That's what we want to hear. Yeah, I mean, the more merch shops that we can keep open, I would have thought the more trade we're going to do. So I don't know. Don't know the answer to that question. There is a very real cup tie vibe about this run of form, dear listeners. I think I said it when I was doing my in-game stream of consciousness the other day. You do have this kind of backs to the wall, um, you know, hanging on for a 1 goal lead against superior opponents feeling. It's third round of the FA Cup over and over. But that's two tremendous results in short 3 days worth of football. To beat Burnley and then to beat Leeds is none of us could have expected that. I think if we'd have come away with 2 points out of those two games, we probably would have told ourselves that we'd done well. Leeds were getting frustrated there, Lawrence. I noticed Daniel Farker, great name, Farker. Um, he got the arse with. I think that the West Lower kept the ball, and he was trying to get it back, and he had his arms wide open, so he made quite a substantial looking figure with his arms wide open. But he had the hump, and I thought as soon as you get the hump like that, as soon as you start reacting to the crowd and getting involved, well, you're on the slide, and so it was. We did a fantastic job of working Leeds with backs to the wall, but we worked them over for 90 plus minutes with added time, and it's a tremendous team performance. So the Alamo's a good analogy with a little bit less blood and guts, I imagine. What a huge contrast, incidentally, listeners, with the Leeds fixture under Gary Rowett last year, which was a very insipid affair. Do you remember that one? I think we got beat 2-0. We kind of accepted they were a superior side, and that it was a patsy game. So massive contrast with last season's version of this fixture. We're going to take an advertising break, and then we'll be back with our final two messages from Glyn Horner and Jamie Mack. So stay tuned.
Achtung, Millwall.
Hey Nick, Glyn here. Yeah, well, 4 wins in a row, 4 clean sheets. Who saw that coming? Brilliant, really, really good. Really, one of the great sort of den evening nights, I would say, that game. It was fantastic defensive performance from the team, and allowed Leeds to obviously keep a lot of the possession, but ultimately, I think largely kept them under control. I never felt at any point that Leeds were really dominating us. There were periods, of course, where they were in charge, but you get that in games. Japhet Tanganga's finish was pure class. What a player, and we'll be lucky to have him. And I think it's it's an interesting thing to maybe one day analyse the squad and look at of our squad, first team and the backup players. Really, how many players do we have that are sellable assets that we could expect to make a profit on based upon what we've spent on them so far? And there's probably a handful, I would say now, which is a nice position to be in. I wanted to just make, the light show. Honestly, it's fine. I don't understand why people are getting their knickers in a twist about it. Football has moved on. You look at the price of running a game now, the salaries of players and staff and running a stadium, the fact that the club has probably negotiated a better deal with a lighting company to update the lighting, which was probably outdated anyway. And they've probably negotiated the fact that they'll do a few shows every year just for that company to advertise their products to other potential customers. Well done to the club, I say. That's a very sensible thing to do. And ultimately, if you don't want to see the light show, there's a concourse with a roof over it, and there's places you can buy beer and you can have a beer. So stop moaning and let the club get on with building its financial foundations. Yeah, so really that's it, I guess. I mean, what an amazing run of games. One final mention: Macaulay Langstaff. I'm really impressed with what his attitude is at the moment. I mean, clearly he's a goal scorer. He will thrive on putting the ball in the back of the net, and I know that hasn't happened a lot yet. But he's really putting in a shift every game now, and he does not look out of place at championship level. And I hope for his sake that a run of goals does come, because I know for his own mentality, it's probably what he needs to have to remain motivated and positive. But I'm really happy with him, and I think it's just a matter of time. He will contribute goals. He's a quality player, and he has an eye for goal, and he's been a bit unlucky up to now. So, yeah, let's stick with him. He's a good lad. All right, come on, you Lions. On to Stoke.
Just a quick one for me. After watching Millwall at home whilst getting the kids ready, driving into work, and then missing the morning meeting to finish the game off. I know you can have loads of you'll be inundated with messages, so just really quick, fantastic performance. They were better than Burnley, but again, we limited them to so little chances. Coburn really made a massive difference when he came on, really gave us a bit of impetus up front, and our back line stayed solid. The atmosphere was hotter than a dingo's den, and I wish I could have been there, but I'm starting the day off happy with a big smile on my face. Come on, you Lions.
Big thank you, Jamie Mack out there in Australia, and before him, Glyn Horner makes some great points. Yeah, the light show. I mean, we touched on it already. I did an interview with the iPaper. They were doing a feature on Millwall. I think they're doing the whole 92 circuit, the whole 92 professional clubs, and that they'd reached us. And part and parcel of the interview was reactions to the big new Bermondsey redevelopment that's going to go on all around the stadium. It seems like it's got more chance of starting than many of the other schemes. You can actually see one or two buildings in the area now. The towers of being erected. This will change the area quite considerably, dear listeners. And the point of one of the questions that I did with the journalist, Daniel Story, their senior football journalist, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about Millwall Football Club and its area becoming, I suppose, gentrified is the word. You see it all across London, dear listeners. I was earlier on today, I was driving through Canning Town. I don't know if any listeners out there around the world can remember Canning Town from the early 1970s, a bit like Stratford. It was like the nuclear bomb had gone off, and there were the people still living amidst the wreckage of the day, the day after. It was not a nice place to be. Bermondsey, I suppose, to some extent, with the closure of the docks, became a bit of a forgotten wasteland. When I lived in Bermondsey in the early 90s, it'd been rebuilt from the 80s, but there was a lot that wasn't there, and the area is changing. Go around Surrey Docks, go around Canning Town, go to Stratford, go along Silvertown, all these kinds of places. You'll see loads and loads and loads of redevelopment. Now, my criticism of that is that big builders, in conjunction with the local authorities and the big government, London government here, are building loads and loads of nondescript oblong blocks of flats with the requisite coffee shop, retail unit, sometimes a little art gallery around if you're in some bohemian corner. And they all look the same. You see it in Woolwich, you see it everywhere. You're going to see it around Bermondsey. There's nothing, in truth, that the old sweats like me and probably yourself, going by our listenership readouts, listeners, can do about that. It was the force of the times. Money is moving into that kind of redevelopment. London has got loads of spare land in these kinds of areas, the forgotten areas, South Bermondsey, our football ground. And that you're either in on it, which we hope the club will be in on now, thanks to the campaigns fought by the likes of Mickey Simpson and others a few years ago to preserve our place within this new Bermondsey development. Does it make me misty-eyed for the old days? Of course it does. I am from the 1970s. I first started going when 72, when the world looked a very different place. But life moves on, and we are a business at the end of the day. So, yes, redevelopment will make the area look different. We might start getting different types of fans in the stadium. We're getting a lot more tourists now, aren't we? Light shows, I don't personally dig it, but if that's deemed to be a money-making venture in some way that is beyond me, maybe as them was originally envisaged as a multi-use venue for concerts. I mean, maybe you could use the lights to actually stage a gig. I mean, the legendary James Brown gig that never happened. Maybe other events, boxing. I don't know. I mean, that was what it was built for. When we moved from Coldblow Lane, Reg Burr had the vision to see that multi-use stadia, were the way forwards, and we've never really exploited that. We've had odds and sods there. I mean, a few kind of events. There was a religious event there a few years ago, but there's been the boxing in the early 90s. Nothing for a long while. The odd international, I think Australia played there, or was it Ghana versus Jamaica? Some fixtures like that. We had the odd event, but we've never really exploited the Den to the levels that I think were intended when we moved in the 1990s. Now, part of the reason for that, I personally believe, is that there are plenty of venues in London. You've got the O2, you've got Wembley, you've got all sorts of venues across the capital now. But to compete in that market, you've got to have other stuff around you. You go to the O2, you've got shops, restaurants, you've got connections, you've got transport, you name it. You've got blocks of flats. There is a reason to go there, as well as the sports event or the concert or the gig or whatever you're going to go see there. This need to be part of the modern world is hard for people such as myself, and I dare say many of the listeners to this show, because you come from a different era, and that's not the Millwall that you know, to coin a phrase. Unfortunately, you can't put the Millwall that you know in the bank, and you can't progress as a club. You certainly can't expect to sign the best players and therefore progress on through the leagues, up to the levels that we aspire to, without the money. If you want one lesson of life, is that money gets what it wants in the end. Hard, perhaps, but true. So the light show, I've gone off a bit off tangent there, but the light show, Glenn, much as it's nice to make snarky comments about it, and I don't want to see a light show, but it's going to be part and parcel of any potential wider usage of the Den. There's even plans to expand the Den, but there we are. We won't touch on that for the moment. There we are. Great messages all the way through this show. Parts 2 and now this part 3. That concludes our coverage of Leeds United. One of the best results, best performances for a good few seasons, in my opinion, given the circumstances of the club. So there we are. Big thank you to everyone for contributing. If you want to get in touch with me, do give me a shout on X. You can direct message me. You can send me a voice note message on X at achtungmillwall. If you prefer, and it's a lot easier for me as well as maybe you, give me a shout and we can exchange mobile numbers, and just send me a voice note by WhatsApp. Always appreciate anything after any game, any comment, reviews. I'll do my best to pack it all in, subject to the rules of English law, libel and slander. There we are, dear listeners. Big thank you for listening. Until the next edition of Achtung Millwall from me, Nick Hart, it's Arrivederci Millwall, and bye for now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.